Wait, you're my wife. That's what he said, shirt half open, voice hoarse, standing at the edge of a hotel bed where she lay beneath tangled sheets. And 7 years of silence. They were married on paper, bound by family debt business deals and a contract neither of them had signed willingly. For 7 years they lived on opposite ends of the world, strangers in name only. Until one night a storm a hotel, mix up one bed and a moment that shattered the walls they'd both built. And after that night, the ruthless black CEO who had everything became addicted to the one woman he thought he'd never need. If you find value in real stories told with clarity and truth, make sure to subscribe. The Strangers Who Shared a Last Name. The contract is binding for 7 years. After that, either party may dissolve the marriage. That was the line that changed Arden Blake's life. She was only 19, quiet, brilliant, raised by her grandfather after her parents disappeared into scandal and shame. And suddenly, she was married not by choice, but by necessity. The groom, a man she'd never met, Julius Creed, 28 at the time. A rising black CEO, ruthless in the boardroom, calculating with every move, heir to a billion-dollar conglomerate in crisis. His grandfather's will was clear. Marry the Blake girl or lose your position, lose the company. So he signed and disappeared. For 7 years they lived separate lives. No phone calls, no photos, no visits. She stayed in New York teaching piano lessons, finishing a degree in psychology, and slowly building a quiet life on the outskirts of Manhattan. He built an empire flying between Singapore, Tokyo, and Dubai, collecting power like tokens, discarding people like paper. Neither of them filed for divorce. It wasn't hatred, it was indifference, or so they thought. But fate doesn't like loopholes. And the moment the 7th year ended, Julius returned to New York not to meet her, but to attend a black tie gala hosted in the same hotel where she happened to be staying for a teaching conference. A storm hit. Flights canceled. Rooms reassigned. The hotel made an error. 2 guests, 1 room, 1 king-size bed. And no one realized they were husband and wife. She was already asleep when he arrived. Face buried in a pillow hair, loose, wearing an oversized t-shirt. Julius walked in at 2:13 a.m., soaked from rain and fury, muttering into his Bluetooth headset, "Fix this room mess. I don't care how. Find me a suite." He tossed his jacket over the chair, kicked off his shoes, and headed to the bathroom. He didn't even see her, not until 2:23 a.m., when she sat up groggily, rubbing her eyes. He froze. So did she. "Wait, who are you?" she asked. He turned, narrowed his eyes. "This room was reassigned to me. And who are you?" She reached for the lamp, and when the light hit her face, he saw her eyes. He'd seen them once in a wedding photo he never looked at again. "No," he whispered. "That's not possible." She blinked, then slowly, softly, "Julius." He stared at her as if seeing a ghost. Arden. Silence. And then louder this time, dazed, disarmed, undone. "Wait, you're my wife." 1 room, 1 night, 7 years too late. Silence. Heavy electric, awkward. Julius Creed, the black CEO who built an empire on precision, stood barefoot in a hotel suite, staring at a woman he legally married 7 years ago and had never once touched. "This is insane," he muttered, dragging a hand through his rain-damp curls. Arden sat up straighter, gripping the edge of the blanket. I didn't know you were here. The hotel messed up." I gathered that he said dryly. They stared at each other for a moment, 2 strangers bound by a piece of paper that once meant nothing. Until now. Flashback 7 years ago. The courthouse was cold. Arden wore her mother's borrowed shoes. Julius wore a tailored suit and a frown that never moved. They didn't speak. They just signed. Because the deal was already made arranged by two men who needed each other's silence, not approval. Present night, 2:45 a.m. Julius sat in the chair across from the bed. "You look different. You've never seen me before," she said, crossing her arms. "Exactly," he replied. "That's why it's different." She rolled her eyes the way only a woman who had nothing to lose could. "Why didn't you ever reach out?" He shrugged. "We had a deal. You stay out of my way. I stay out of yours." "It wasn't a deal," she said quietly. "It was silence." He paused, and for a moment, just a flicker, something like guilt, crossed his face. They talked, for hours, about what they did, what they didn't, who they became. He found out she played piano for underprivileged children every Thursday. She found out he donated to a cancer research foundation anonymously in honor of his mother. He asked if she hated him. She said she didn't know him well enough to. 3:17 a.m. Rain still poured. The hotel had no other rooms. The bed was too big for either of them to claim entirely. So they split it silently, awkwardly, backs to each other, breathing shallow. But neither slept. Julia stared at the ceiling, her words echoing. It wasn't a deal, it was silence. She wasn't wrong. And suddenly, the contract that once protected him felt like a wall he didn't want anymore. 6:02 a.m., the first light crept into the room. He turned slowly. She was already awake, eyes open, staring at the ceiling. "I was going to file the papers this week," she whispered. He blinked. "Divorce." She nodded. "It's been 7 years. The term's over." He was quiet. Then his voice low, unfamiliar. "What if I don't want it to be over?" The night ended, but something had started. She didn't answer him at first. "What if I don't want it to be over?" Julius's words still floated in the space between them, soft, serious, and uncalculated. Arden sat up, hugging her knees to her chest. The blanket fell from her shoulders, exposing the slight tremble in her posture. "You can't say that just because we shared a bed for 5 hours. We didn't do anything," he said. "You know that." She looked over. "Didn't we?" Because here's the truth. Neither of them wanted to admit they hadn't touched, but something intimate had happened anyway. The kind of intimacy that sneaks in through shared silence, through the quiet realization that this person, this legal stranger, might be the only one who ever made you feel still. Julius got up, poured her a cup of hotel coffee. Black. No sugar. Just how she used to drink it in college, a detail she never told him, but he somehow guessed. "We were supposed to be over before we began," Arden said softly. "Our marriage was a loophole, a shield, nothing real." "Then why does this feel real now?" he asked. She didn't respond. Because she was scared. Not of him, but of what it would mean to want someone who once chose to ignore her existence. Flashback year 3 of the marriage. She'd written him a letter. Nothing emotional, just curious. A few lines. Asking how he was, mentioning a friend's wedding, and how strange it felt to sit at the single table while technically not being single. She never got a reply. Now, years later, he confessed, "I read that letter a dozen times. I just didn't know how to respond." She turned sharply. "You could have just said thank you, or hello, or anything. I didn't know how to be someone's husband, Arden. I still don't." And there it was. The confession. The lion in a glass tower finally admitting he didn't know how to be soft. The hotel called at 8:12 a.m. The room was no longer needed. Flights were resuming. Guests were checking out. Julius looked at her. "Come with me." She blinked. "Where?" "Anywhere." "Julius, I'm not asking for forever. I'm asking for a chance. A week. A weekend. A day where I'm not hiding behind legal paperwork and board meetings. Where you see who the weekend he couldn't walk away from. They didn't go far. Not Paris, not Dubai, not any of the flashy places Julius's calendar usually sent him. They went upstate, to a lakeside cabin he hadn't visited in years. No Wi-Fi, no security team, no board members, no photographers. Just trees, water, wind, and space to breathe. The first night they cooked together, she chopped vegetables like she was racing a clock. He was terrible with a knife, but wouldn't admit it. "You're holding it like you're about to fire a CEO, she teased. He smirked. "I might fire the chef first." They laughed. A real laugh. Unpracticed, uncontrolled. And Julius realized this was the first dinner he'd eaten at a real table in months. Afterward, they sat on the back deck, wrapped in blankets, sipping cider, staring at the lake as the moon cast silver ripples across its surface. "Why this place?" she asked. "My mother brought me here every summer, before everything got loud. Before your father passed. Before I became someone people feared." Arden turned to him, surprised by the softness in his voice. "Do you like who you become?" He took a long breath. "I like who I am when I'm not being watched." She looked at him. "Then maybe I'm the first person who's really seen you." The next day, he found her playing the old upright piano inside the cabin, the same one his mother used to hum beside. Arden's fingers moved slowly, deliberately. She didn't play to impress. She played like someone remembering how to feel. He stood in the doorway and just listened. "I used to wonder if you were cruel," she said, without turning around, "or just afraid of being known." He stepped forward. "I was both." She stopped playing. "And now I'm terrified of you knowing me and choosing to leave anyway." She looked at him long and hard, then said, "I haven't made that choice yet, so stop assuming I have." That night they kissed, not because the setting was perfect, not because it was time, but because the silence between them had become too full to contain anything else. She kissed him first, just like in the hotel. He kissed her back this time without holding back, and when she whispered his name between breaths, Julius realized something horrifying and beautiful. He wanted her to say it every night for the rest of his life. Back in the city 3 days later, he didn't want to leave her apartment. The CEO, who ruled every room, now waited in a tiny walk-up kitchen, watching her make coffee like it was the most important board meeting of his life. "Do you still want the papers signed?" she asked one morning. He stepped forward. "No." "Then what do you want?" He didn't hesitate. "I want you. No contracts, no negotiations, no 7-year terms, just you." She nodded. "Then you'll have to learn how to keep me." When a man who never needed anyone suddenly couldn't breathe without her, Julius Creed had conquered markets, shut down rivals, outsmarted legacy billionaires twice his age. But he had never struggled more than trying to find the right toothbrush brand in the cramped aisle of Arden's corner pharmacy. She laughed at him. "You're a genius in mergers and acquisitions, and you can't handle mint versus spearmint. One has whitening," he muttered. "The other has flavor crystals." "What are flavor crystals, should I be afraid?" She doubled over, laughing. And Julius, the man who used to measure his life in shareholder meetings and deadlines, realized he didn't care what the stock market was doing today. He just wanted her to keep laughing like that. But the closer they got, the more unstable his carefully built world began to feel. Because Arden wasn't a woman who wanted his money. She didn't need his empire. She needed him whole, honest human, and that terrified him. One night after dinner at her place, she asked him something simple. "Who were you before the money?" He froze. No one had ever asked him that. Not his partners, not his exes, not even himself. "I was a boy who hated being poor, a teenager who hated being forgotten, and a man who decided he'd never be small again." She nodded. "And now I'm trying not to be hollow." She placed her hand on his chest. "You're not when you're with me." But not everyone was ready for this new version of him. At a private shareholder dinner 2 weeks later, whispers began circulating. "He's distracted. Since when does Julius Creed skip morning briefs for a piano teacher? She's going to be a liability. Someone even pulled him aside. You've changed. Julius looked them dead in the eyes. Good. The next day, he showed up at Arden's place early, unannounced. Rain soaked through his coat. He looked tired but alive. I'm not going to lie to you, he said as she opened the door. I don't know how to be in this kind of relationship. What kind? She asked gently. The kind where I'm not trying to win. She reached for his hand. Then maybe it's not about winning. Maybe it's just about showing up. He exhaled. Then let me show up for you. Every damn day, if you'll let me. That night, they didn't make love. They unmade distance. And when Julius laid beside her heart, finally open voice, barely a whisper, he said something no one had ever heard from him. I don't want to go back to the man I was before you. She kissed his temple. Then don't. The weight of being loved out loud. By now, everyone knew. Not just the board, not just his assistants or her neighbors, everyone. The marriage that once existed only in court records and forgotten legal files was suddenly real. Photos of them leaving a jazz bar, a leaked shot of them hand in hand at a bookshop, an anonymous source whispering, it wasn't just a contract. He's obsessed with her. And they were right. Julius Creed, once known for his cold detachment, now left meetings early to walk Arden home from her piano class. He had her tea preferences memorized. He canceled a keynote in Singapore just to attend her nonprofit recital. People didn't know what to make of it. He's gone soft. She's controlling him. This is a PR stunt. And then came the board meeting. They brought out the big guns. Charts, numbers, headlines. A formal review of behavioral shifts that may compromise leadership stability. Translation: you're too in love, and it's scaring us. Julius sat in silence. Let them talk. Then he stood. Every decision I've made since I met her has made me more precise, more human, and more dangerous. A pause. You're not scared because I'm distracted. You're scared because for the first time, I'm anchored. He walked out before they could respond. Meanwhile, Arden faced her own backlash. A parent at the music school pulled their child from lessons. We don't feel comfortable having our daughter around. That kind of attention. She smiled politely, said nothing. But that night she cried into Julius's chest. I didn't ask for any of this. You didn't have to, he said. They're reacting to your power, not your fault. What power? The kind that makes a man like me forget how to be cold. One evening she left him a note. I love you, but I don't want to be a liability. If this starts costing you everything, please don't let it cost you, you. He read it, crushed it in his fist. Ran 5 blocks through the rain to her apartment. Pounded on the door. She opened it startled. I will never trade your peace for their comfort, he said. Julius. Let them be afraid, let them whisper. I built a world where I never needed anyone. He stepped closer, and now I'd burn it down for you. That night, they didn't talk about the board, or her career, or the future. They just lay in bed, fingers intertwined, heartbeats sinking. Because sometimes love isn't a declaration. Sometimes it's the decision to stay in a room full of pressure and still choose each other. The paper she never knew existed. By now, Julius and Arden had become something no one could ignore. Not scandal, not spectacle, something real. They moved like people who had learned to breathe in each other's air. No longer strangers. No longer legally bound, but emotionally claimed. Then came the envelope, slipped under Arden's door. No return address, no message. Just one sheet of paper and a photo. She stared at it frozen, felt her lungs tighten. The photo was of her and Julius, blurry but intimate, a kiss on her porch. From behind, far away. Attached to it, a scanned copy of an old contract addendum, one she had never signed. Clause 17C. If either party dissolves the marriage before the 7-year term for reasons deemed personal, the remaining assets, including foundation shares, revert to the original shareholder, Julius Creed. She sat down. Wait. If Julius divorces me early, he gets everything. She had never seen this version of the contract. She didn't call him. She packed a bag, left her keys on the counter, wrote a note. I don't know what to believe right now. Give me space. If this is real, you'll understand. Julius came home to silence. At first he thought she was at the school. Then he saw the keys. The note. His stomach dropped. He called. No answer. Texted. No reply. For a man who controlled billion-dollar networks, he'd never felt so powerless. 2 hours later, his attorney arrived. Panicked. Sir, we have a problem. One of your board members leaked a fake contract to your wife, an altered version of the prenup. Julius's blood ran cold. Who? We're tracking it. But they made it look real. She thinks I lied to her. Sir? No, he said. She thinks I used her. He got in the car. No driver, no security. Just him chasing something more valuable than his entire empire. He found her in the place she used to go when the world got too loud, the music school. Alone in the rehearsal room, hands still on the keys of a silent piano. She didn't look up when he entered. Did you know, she asked, voice thin. About the fake clause, no. But I should have. Why didn't you show me the original contract? He stepped forward. Because I wanted to pretend it didn't exist. I wanted to believe that we had something that didn't begin with leverage. She stood. You're a businessman. I was a transaction. You were, he said honestly. But not anymore. Now you're the only decision I've made with my heart first. She watched him, eyes searching. Do you even know who you are without your empire? I didn't, he whispered. But now, I'm learning. He pulled a new envelope from his coat pocket. This is a legal renunciation. It gives you full control of every asset connected to our contract. I'm taking my name off all of it. The man who bought a marriage and stayed for love. A month passed. Quiet. No headlines, no meetings, no contracts. Just them. Arden didn't move into his penthouse. She didn't change her last name on social media. She didn't do interviews or post pictures. But every night, Julius came home to her tiny apartment, took off his shoes, rolled up his sleeves, chopped vegetables beside her. And every morning, she'd kiss his shoulder before he left, a small reminder that she didn't need a mansion. Just a man who stayed. He restructured his company, transferred partial voting power, resigned from 2 boards, stopped accepting interviews that praised him as the untouchable king of finance. Because now he didn't want to be untouchable. He wanted to be known. Then quietly, on a Tuesday afternoon, he asked her, "Will you marry me?" She blinked. Again, for real this time. No contracts, no deadlines. Just vows. She smiled. Then yes, for real this time. Their second wedding wasn't public. No paparazzi, no gala. Just a garden behind the music school, a dozen chairs, a violinist, and a man who once forgot how to love, crying as he said her name. I married you before I knew your voice. Now I want to spend my life hearing it every day. She placed her hand on his cheek. You didn't choose me the first time, but you stayed. That's louder than love. Epilogue. 1 year later, a letter was framed in their home. The one Arden wrote him in year 3 of their marriage, the one he never answered. He finally wrote back, Dear Arden, I didn't know what to say back then, but now I do. I see you. I hear you. I choose you. Not for a year, not for a contract. Forever, Julius. And in the city, where they were strangers, in name for 7 years, they now walk hand in hand. Not as mystery, not as scandal, but as proof that love doesn't always arrive on time. Sometimes it takes years to show up, but when it does, it doesn't knock. It walks in uninvited and never leaves. If this story reminded you that love can start in silence and grow into something unshakable, subscribe to Real Father Story for more powerful human journeys.